Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. A very, very exciting guest today, Paul Akers. I'll introduce him here in just a moment, but it is just a very, very special treat to be able to have him on today, and very glad that he is joining us. Today's podcast and episode is brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. We're in the business of growing. We're in the business of improving people's lives. Our purpose and mission statement is to improve the quality of life for our customers, team, and community. And the vehicle and the way that we do that is just simply through pest services and providing services to one another. We have had a tremendous amount of growth and opportunity for growth the last decade, but especially the last few years as we've dialed in some of our business practices and marketing. We grow all the same ways that you grow. Specifically, we've been growing via acquisition. That's been a lot of fun and very exciting. And so anyone that's on and that's listening, that's looking to be able to exit the market, specifically in the Arizona market, we would love to be able to talk with them. And we've been having just lots and lots of success with people reaching out and helping people transition into the next chapter of whatever their life might look like: retirement, golfing, traveling, sleeping more, whatever it might be. They can call or text me directly at 480-254-9730. They can email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. Would love to be able to visit with them. Now, Paul Akers, everybody. I've got a little bit of a bio here. Paul, when he sent it to me, I read it 5 times. I just thought, man, if I could just do 10% of any of this, I think that I would, die a happy man. But Paul Akers is the founder and president of FastCap, a product development company specializing in woodworking tools and hardware for the professional builder. FastCap was started in Paul's garage in 1997 when he simply fixed what bugged him and developed his first product, the FastCap cover cap. From humble beginnings and no MBA, FastCap has thousands of distributors worldwide in over 40 countries. Paul's intense curiosity on how things could be improved paved the way for him to become a prolific innovator, and today he holds many, many U.S. and international patents. In June of 2011, Paul won Seattle's Business Magazine's prestigious Business Executive of the Year award. He's authored 5 books on the subject of lean, of which 2 Second Lean was recognized by Shingo Institute, and he won the Research and Professional Publication Award for that book. Paul is an avid outdoorsman and surfs, runs, swims, bikes, and has summited many 14,000-foot mountains, including Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm tired just thinking about that. Paul is an energetic speaker whose core passion is helping people discover their full potential and showing others how to implement lean in their businesses and personal life. He graduated from Biola University in 1983 with honors, obtaining a degree in education. Paul's been married to his wife, Leanne, since 1983, and they've got 2 grown children who work with him at FastCap. It's truly a family-run business. Paul, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Austin. And that was a nice introduction. I appreciate it. But I'm just a regular guy, believe me.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate you being on and sharing a few moments with us and some of your insight. As I've been following you around more the last few years, I've just been fascinated by the work that you've done, specifically as it relates to lean. How for you, how did that, I know some of it, but listeners may not, how did that come about for you? The concept or idea for lean, how was that introduced to you, and how did you kind of get going with that?
Well, I'll tell you, there are 2 ways that people learn about lean. The first way is something called a burning platform. So they're running their company or they're running their organization or they're involved in some kind of a management or leadership and they're in a crisis mode. We call that a burning platform. They got to jump off the ship, or they got to do something or jump off the ship. And a lot of people go searching when they have those kinds of problems and they stumble across something. They might stumble across lean. In my case, that was not the case. And it's a little unusual because that's the way most people encounter lean. In my case, I was crazy successful. I had everything in the world going for me. making lots of money. The bank wanted to throw all the money in the world at me. Everything was going right. I had a great company. People loved working there. But I had one problem, and it was just a simple problem. I was having problems managing inventory. I was importing a lot of stuff from foreign countries, from Europe, places like that. And I was a cabinet maker. I didn't know how to do all this stuff. So I went into a consultant and I asked him if he could help me. Came to my facility, looked around and said, I don't know if I can help you. And I love this part of the story because he was very brutal with me. And I believe in being very brutal with people. I believe in like, wake up, pull your head out of your rear end. It's time to see what's really going on. And he told me, no, I can't help you because you're clueless and you don't know what you're doing. And I was, in my mind, one of the best manufacturers. The bank certainly thought so. Everybody thought so. My place was immaculate. Everything was perfect. I was a super OCD person, really organized and everything. And I said, well, what do I need to do? And he said, learn the Toyota production system, TPS. I didn't even know what that was. Learn Kaizen. I never heard of the word before. It was all Greek to me. And as I tell when I speak, I'm Greek. I got a giant Greek nose. When you see the nose, I should be able to understand this language, right? It was Greek, but I didn't. And I hired these consultants to come in after he told me, you need to learn it. And they were Japanese kids, and they came in and showed me what I was doing wrong. And they transformed my company. I took processes that were 45 minutes to 7 minutes. And I was the expert. That's what I did. I was a manufacturer. I knew what the hell I was doing. That's all there was to it. I knew what I was doing. And these young kids showed me that I had no idea what I was doing. Zero. And I'm learning Espanol. So zero. And and when they did that twice in two different areas in my company, they took a process that were 45 minutes and turned it into 5 and 7 minutes. I go, what am I doing? I mean, this is insane. Within the first 3 months, it added, this is kind of give you a perspective, and you never do lean for money. I never do it for money, but I'm just going to give people a perspective. This was like 20 years ago, right? It added $30,000 of net profit to my bottom line a month.
Wow.
A month.
Wow.
A month. I mean, come on. What now? Could everybody agree that at that point that I had my head up my rear end summarily? And yet the bank said I was the best. Everybody said I was the best. I've never seen a company so well run. That's how bad I was. And I was good, right? I was making millions of dollars. I was doing everything right, right? I was the epitome of the success story. And that's how bad I was. So that's
and so I got to ask, I mean, what was that just a super humbling experience? I mean, were you addicted from that point on, or did the passion light inside you just saying, oh my goodness, I've stumbled upon something?
Yeah, that's exactly what I stumbled across the Holy Grail. I stumbled across the secret to life. The things, I traversed through life at that point in my career. I had my degree. I had a lot of real estate. I progressed through life pretty well, but there was always kind of this crap going on. You know what I mean? There's always this stuff that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Like, how do you deal with that problem? And how do you deal with that problem? And I hadn't found any really good ways to deal with some of these issues, right? And all of a sudden, this was it. It was the Holy Grail right in front of me. And I go, oh my gosh, if I applied this thinking, all those problems would go away. And I would just be felicity, pure joy, pure happiness all the time. And not all the time. Come on, I don't want to overstate a little bit, but all that stuff kind of went away. And I'm like, I got to do this. And so I became kind of crazy about it because it did indeed take all that stuff and just push it aside. And I was like, this is it. That's why I'm the evangelist that I am today for it.
And so, Paul, at FastCap, you shared a little bit about some of, how lean came about for you. But what else were some of the early days of FastCap like? It started in your garage, not in your garage anymore. And so, what were some of those earlier days like?
Chaotic. I was the master firefighter. You know what I mean? I was always right. I was the hero. I was the superhero. I was Paul, the one with all the answers. Oh, I'll get it done. You can't figure it out. I'll get it done. I was always stepping in to save the day. That's what it was. Now I travel around the world. I'm kite surfing today. I'm learning Spanish, Latin America. I mean, Do I need to say any more?
You had me at kite surfing. So it was crazy. It was chaotic. And it was very different then than it is now. One of the things that I wanted to share, that when I stumbled upon some of your things and when we had first connected, I can't remember how I first reached out, email or, maybe it was WhatsApp at the time, but I had watched a lot of your things on YouTube and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have got to go to where Paul's facility is. I've got to tour this lean facility. I've got to. And I was so appreciative. You said, Austin, do not do that. Don't come here. No way. Go check this YouTube video out. It's an office tour or a facility tour. It'll save you $1,000 in 2 days of your life.
Right.
And you can just watch it here. And so I, really appreciated that, when you said it's not necessarily a money thing, but the money will often follow. And in your case, 20 years ago, $30,000 net profit a month.
Yeah. That was 20 years. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah. But I appreciated that you just said, hey, don't do that. This is better. It's more lean. And then as recently as kind of scheduling this podcast with you, you said you kind of were very blunt to me and said, I reached out via email. We were exchanging about something else. Yeah. And you said, Austin, you got to stop. You got to stop. Yeah. This is too slow for me. Get me on Signal. Get me whatever else. You're killing me. You're killing me.
I'm a blunt person. I'm a happy person and I love helping people, but I'm like, cannot waste my time because I am just like I'm living life. And you just said that video. I wasn't trying to be rude, but I looked it up on my phone. 605,000 views.
Wow.
Right. So 605,000 people have watched that video that I told you to watch and then people can watch it over and over again. Every time they watch it, they learn something new. Or you can come to my place and just kind of go, oh my gosh, what do I do? And then walk away, like, I don't even know where to start. Right. Well, you just keep watching the video. Right. And there's thousands of those videos because I've made literally thousands of videos about what we do and how we do it. So everything's free too. I don't want anything. There's zero monetizing anything I do. All my books are free. They're in 19 languages. I have an audio, I have a podcast. I have an app. I spent $50,000 on the app alone, just putting my books in 9 languages so that any person can just put in 2-second lean play and start listening to all my books. And you want to listen to it in Spanish, Czechoslovakian, you want to listen to it in Polish, you want to, you can listen to it in any language you want, Russian, Chinese, it's all there.
So having lean introduced to you, obviously totally transformed, not just your business, but your life and probably all areas and aspects of it. What were there other turning points, Paul, along the way for you in business, or was this kind of the beginning of the end? I mean, everything you were just looking at with the fresh lens and view. What other turning points were there?
Good. I like that question. So I'm gonna go back a little bit because I'm thinking in Spanish. Muy importante. Muy importante. Everything comes out in Spanish. I apologize. So sometimes I interject that. But the most important thing that ever happened to me was my relationship with Bob Taylor Guitars. So Bob's still a personal friend of mine. I talk to him almost every week, just an amazing human being. But I worked for Bob when I was 17 years old in the very early stages of Taylor Guitars. So today, Taylor Guitars makes 800 acoustic guitars a year. A day. Excuse me, a day. What am I talking? A year. A day. I mean, they're like the biggest in the world. They make the best guitars in the world. They're just incredible. So I worked with Bob and in a dusty shop. And when I was 17 years old, it was in the evening and we were just the two of us were alone, and we were hooking up a new sander. And when we went to hook up the sander, Bob knew how to wire it. It was 220 electrical, and I didn't know 220 electrical. I really didn't know 110. I knew it a little bit, but I didn't know it well. And he went in there. He went from being a master craftsman where Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young was playing his guitar on the movie screen. At that point, he was like 21 years old. And then he just transitioned right into wiring this machine. I'm looking at him and go, Bob, how do you know how to build guitars and you know how to do electrical? And he looked at me and he said, oh, Paul, I stand on the shoulder of giants. Everything that I've learned, people have went before me and I've learned from them. And it's not me. I'm just lucky that I've had so many great people around me. So that was probably the most important turning point in my business life because he set a perspective for me at that moment in time, which I'll never forget. I can literally put myself back, that it's not about me. And as great as you may think you are, there are other people that are way smarter than you and that have laid the pathwork for you. And you should be grateful. You should not try to heap everything on yourself. And, I just go, whoa, this guy's world class. I mean, he's famous. He's got it all. And he's just like, no, I'm lucky. So that was the biggest turning point in my whole psyche of the way I approached life. Did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate you saying that. My mind goes to, if you take the 5 people that you associate with the most and you add them up, average them out as it comes to whether it's physical health or financial success, it said that you're kind of the sum of the 5 people that you hang around the most. And I don't know how true that is or not, but it sounds like your network and people that are influential are extremely important to you. And Bob was certainly one of those people. Are there others, Paul, giants, if you will, that have been influential for you in, influencing the way that you think, behave? Yeah, we could probably be here for 5 hours, but yeah.
Well, I read a book a week, and so I could tell you, John D. Rockefeller, the Titan. I mean, everything I do, I think about the way John D. Rockefeller thought. He would walk through and he would see people wasting. He'd pick up a nail on the ground, and he would, say, why are we wasting that nail? Henry Ford's book, Today and Tomorrow. Henry Ford looked at every process and say, how do we eliminate the waste? We're spending all this time pulling apart these pallets. How do we make the pallets so we could make them so we don't have to spend all that time? How do we resaw the wood? How do we make the glass? Oh my gosh, my brain is just like with these masters, these giant. I think about Carnegie and the way he approached his enterprise coming from nothing, and watching being under the tutelage of I believe it was Charles Schwab, and he would just watch the way he ran his business, and then I could just go on and on and on. I mean, my brain is just circulating with these masters and Teddy Roosevelt. I've been in their home. So I went to John D. Rockefeller's home in Kaikik so I could walk in his footsteps. I've been to Teddy Roosevelt's house at Sagamore Hill on Long Island. I've been to Thomas Jefferson's home in all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank right now. These people have made such a profound impact in the way I think about everything. So I'm just like, and I didn't just like read about them. I went and learned. I went to their homes. You know what I'm trying to say? It's crazy. Well, probably my biggest hero of all times was Winston Churchill. And I've been to Chartwell, his home in England. And the guy was a master painter. He painted 800 paintings. He wrote 100 books. I mean, you read my resume, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, right? So these people have just like completely turned my world upside down. And these images, these thoughts, this thinking is literally just like in my brain 24/7. This is what's going on inside my head.
Unbelievable. So you've done a lot of things right. In continuing to do, there's obviously either errors that are made or mistakes that are made. Could you share maybe one that's most noteworthy for you, or a pitfall that you had that you just learned? Something that cost you $100,000 or something that whatever, and you're like, I am not doing that again.
I'll do it right now. Everyone can see it actually in action. So yesterday, I made a video on what's my favorite camera to use, because somebody read my book and said the video that you have on my book, the link you have is not really that good and I should redo it. Alex actually Ramirez is the one that said that. And so I went and redid the video yesterday, and I held my phone out in front of me like this. And I did the video, never vertical, always horizontal. I always make that point. And I'm doing the video, and it was a really good video. I was really happy with it. And somebody commented on YouTube last night, Paul, it's great, but you weren't looking at the camera. And I go, oh God, you're right. I wasn't looking at the camera. The camera's, on a phone, the camera's here. So he said, put a dot. I found that if I put a dot on your phone, that your eye naturally wants to focus on that. And so then you'll look at it. And this is the weirdest thing. The weirdest thing, you want to talk about opportunities that are swirling in front of you. So I went to lunch yesterday with my kiteboard instructor, and we had to pick his daughter up, his like 8-year-old, 6-year-old daughter from kindergarten or whatever. And so she's at the table and she's playing with these little stickers right here. And she takes a red one and a yellow one and puts it on my Apple Watch right here because she wanted me to match hers that she had. I'm like, great, hey, cool, Juliet, I love it, right? And so I get home and I read this comment, right? You need to put a little dot on there to look at. And I'm going, oh, Julieta, you're brilliant. And both my phones, I took Julieta's dots and put them on both my phones. And I'm supposed to be the master. I know how to make videos. And this guy's telling me I'm not looking at the camera. I'm going, yeah, you're right. That's how big of a screw up I am. But I do it with joy because I improved and I'm better today than I was yesterday.
It sounds like you've got a job offer for Julieta. She can be your business consultant and help you out.
Exactly. At 6 years old.
Well, then what I love about that is that, as visible as you are, I'm sure that you are constantly getting feedback, a lot of it critical. And, you taking that dot, putting it there, it's like, look, that's a man of action. And so we hear, knowledge is power. Well, that's actually not true at all, because if it goes unapplied, then it's just knowledge. And so you get this feedback. You've got Julieta there, she says, hey, be cool like me, Paul, here's a dot. And then you say, get this piece of feedback. You said just last night, and it's early, we started this thing at 5 my time, 7 your time.
Right,
and so from you getting that feedback, taking the dot, I mean, you did that, and that problem for you is fixed forever. Forever.
And I always get to think of, it's Julieta, excuse me. And I always get to think of Julieta when I'm looking at the dot, that little girl coming around to my side of the table and going, Pablo. I go, oh, Julieta, that's cool. Look at the joy I have in my life. But if I was like, I'm Paul Akers, I'm the master lean guy, don't tell me what to do. I'm like, right?
Wouldn't work out so well. No, that's great. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but a lot of people take some time or struggle with grasping either the Kaizen concept, the lean concept. What do you find are the largest barriers to entry into that? When people say, hey, thanks, Paul, that's great, but that won't work for me, or that doesn't work in this industry, and you've heard it all, but I mean, do you kind of roll your eyes, or do you help nudge them along, or what are the things that you hear that are most common, and then debunk them for us? Let us know why that's not the case.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite authors is Rick Warren. He wrote a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And on the first page, in the first sentence, in the first paragraph, in the first sentence, he gives the answer to how to have a purpose-driven life. There's only one thing you need to do. Only one thing. So you've got this book. It's the #1 best-selling book of all time, right? I mean, it's sold hundreds of millions of copies. There's no book better, more popular, right? Purpose-Driven Life. If you haven't read it, you should. But of course, the beautiful thing about it is if you're a lean thinker, you only got to read the first sentence in the book and you've got everything. And that needs to rattle around in your brain for the rest of your life. Here it is. You ready?
Yep.
It's not about you. That's it. It's not about you.
Simple as that.
It's the minute you figure out that you're not on this earth because it's about Austin, it's about Paul, but it's about your ability to serve and improve the lives of the people around you, everything changes. Everything changes. And so the answer to your question is, what's the biggest obstacle? It's ego. It's ego. Rick Warren also says, and it's a beautiful thing. You want to know what the problem with the world is? It's egocentric leadership. If you want to solve all the world's problems instantly, overnight, just period, you take all the people that are in control and in power in this world, I'm going to particularly speak to politicians because they have the most amount of power. They control the levers of power in the world. And if you look at all the problems of the world, you'll always trace it back to an egocentric leadership, to an individual at the top who's consumed with themselves instead of serving.
And it makes me think of our stated purpose at Moxie that I said earlier, but improving the quality of life for our customers, team, and community. Pest control is simply the vehicle that we've chosen to be able to do that. And that's important to us. No one here is actually really passionate about ants or this product or that. I mean, they're part of our
Right.
business, but we're crazy about improving people's lives as we're able to interact and exchange with them. You talk about ego. Ryan Holiday is one of my favorite authors, and he's done different pieces. The Obstacle is the Way.
Well, I love it. I love that book. It's incredible. And that's all about you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's not about you. It's not about you. Yeah. And thank you for sharing, those things as well, because there's just, you think of the things that don't get done because of pride or ego, or when our ego becomes engaged. It's kind of a standoff. People dig their heels in, and that is not lean at all. You mentioned also government, and I think that different people feel different ways, especially in today's climate, about that. But you, about a decade ago, looked to take some of these concepts yourself. Could you speak about that time or that opportunity?
Yes, absolutely. Before I do that, let me just say something. They just turned on the music in here. Is it causing a problem?
No, I can hear you just great.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah. So, one of the things that, again, is rallying around in my brain is the sacrifice that our founding fathers made for the greatest country in the history of mankind, the United States. There's no country that has allowed human beings to prosper and improve their lives greater than the United States. It's been a miraculous thing if you really study history and know about it. I know it's personal for me because my grandfather came from Greece in 1913. He came by himself. He left his wife in Greece for 1 year while he figured out his way in New York City. He came as an immigrant through Ellis Island. And the important thing is, all of his children, 9 daughters, they all learned to speak English. He never returned back to Greece. Never returned. He said, why would I go back to Greece? That country, it didn't give me the opportunity of the United States. He loved America, right? And immigrants, that story is repeated around the world. There's no country in the world that has done what the United States. Sure, there's immigration in other countries, but nowhere like the United States. It attracted the biggest, the brightest people in the world because it allowed for freedom of expression, ideas, and everything else. So I take that and I understand that very acutely. And I felt, I've had all the success that Thomas Jefferson and Adams and Benjamin Franklin, and it's just been an amazing thing. And I thought to myself, how could I traverse through this life and never try to give back to the great gift that was given me? So I put my hat in the ring, and I spent almost $1 million of my own money, and I ran for the U.S. Senate strictly on the premise of trying to bring lean to the federal government, try to bring lean thinking to solve some of these problems, and to contribute back for the great gift that had been given me. I wasn't successful, but it was a great experience.
Wonderful. We had talked earlier, Paul, about something that's kind of been top of mind for you, and that is just the idea of life being short and time being precious. You shared that you're 61 years young as we speak today, and as you have a different lens than someone that might be 30 or 40. Can you speak a little bit more to that and why some of those thoughts have been on your mind?
Let me ask you this: how old are you?
36.
Okay, yeah. So you're in your 30s. I remember like yesterday being 36. I was full of piss and vinegar. I was like, I was taking on the world. I was just, I was like this, I swagger, you know what I mean? I owned lots of real estate. I had a beautiful Mercedes. I just thought life was just going to just keep going. And I wasn't thinking about the end of life. I was just thinking about life, right? And I don't want to say that I'm thinking about the end of life, but the reality of it is I'm 61 years old. And if you look at statistics, I mean, I'm lucky if I got another good 10 years left in me, right? And I'm in perfect health. I mean, I got a six pack, I'm ripped, I'm tan, I've got everything in the world going on for me. I'm not overweight at all. I eat perfectly. I don't have a single medical issue, zero, not one. But I understand that life is short. And, if I got this 10 years, I plan on living to 100. I plan on skiing when I'm 100. I plan on being vibrant to the end, right? But the reality is that might not happen. I'll give you a case in point. My assistant, Lori Turley, 15 years by my side. We talk all the time. She's awesome, incredible. 55 years old, goes in for gallbladder surgery 4 months ago. Complications. She died 4 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, this is a wonderful human being, went hiking all the time with her husband, everything going, right? But she got an infection and she couldn't overcome it and complications, and she died. She's 55 years old, right? And I'm like, you better figure out that life's not that. Every day is precious, and you better live life to the fullest, and you better stop putting things off. I don't ever say someday. That's not in my vernacular. It's now. And this is the way I think. And I try to convey this important concept to people, because I think most people who are 35, 36, like yourself, they're just not thinking that way. And if you start thinking this way, you're going to get 10 times, maybe 100 times more out of life, because you're just doing all this stuff instead of really saying, what is the purpose of life? Number one, what is it that makes me happy? What are the things that I really want to do that I keep saying no to, I keep putting off? How do I work that in to my daily life so I'm happier, so I can contribute more and give more? That's my mindset.
And was that a challenge for you you didn't just start doing this last week, right?
10 years ago.
Been about a decade. Okay.
Yeah. It's been 10 years since I started. I had the epiphany. I was just sitting in my office and I was frustrated about so many things in my life. And, I'm wildly successful. I'm like, I'm the last guy that should be frustrated. I've been to 106 countries. I mean, I've done everything. I have my own planes. I fly all over the world. I've crossed the North Atlantic 2 times in a single engine plane. Everest Base Camp. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I'm the last guy in the world that would be frustrated with their life. I mean, I've done it all and I have it all.
What is your... Yeah. What would you say? I mean, reading and following you more, you're everywhere. You seem to be all over the place, geographically, that is, all of the time. I mean, how do you either find that core for you or purpose for you? Or, I mean, what does a day in the life of Paul Akers look like? None of them seem to be the same. Do you have, routines?
Mm-hmm. Or it's really simple. The day in Paul Akers' life looks exactly like what I'm going to tell you right now. Okay. I am a child. I am the most curious person in the world. So yesterday, when I dropped Julieta off at school, my kite surfer's truck broke down. So on the way out to the beach, he said, it broke down. I said, well, I'm happy. He didn't even ask. I said, I'm happy to come pick you up. So I get there and he said, and then before I got there, he said, got to take my daughter to school. I didn't sign up for taking his daughter to school and being a chauffeur. That's a great opportunity. Hey, great. I'll speak more Spanish. It's all good. I totally didn't worry about the inconvenience it was to me to do all this. I looked at the opportunity, correct? So I take her to school. He gets out of the car and I'm thinking to myself, and I'm speaking to his daughter in Spanish in the back. And I'm thinking to myself, what better way to learn Spanish than to converse with a child who doesn't have this massive vocabulary, but can string sentences together relatively well? And I jump out of the car when I see him take her up to the front door and I say, hey, Rodrigo, can you ask them if I can maybe volunteer for an hour or two in the school every day so I can learn Spanish with children? Because I think my ears will be much more attuned to that. And he'd look at me like, you are freaking crazy, right? That's me. That's a day in the life of Paul Akers, a high-level executive running a big company, wanting to be in preschool with a bunch of kids.
Big ears, small mouth, right? Is that how that goes?
You got it. You got exactly. My ears are like, wow.
Well, and I want to plug that in a little bit. Of the books of yours that I've loved the very most, it was the first time I came across Banished Sloppiness. I think it was pretty close to as it was coming out. I'd really recommend. I love to read just as much as maybe the next person, but the audio version of that book, because you do it,
Right.
is really incredible, and you can see a lot of your passion coming out and coming through. And I would just really recommend that to anyone that might be interested. But you have had opportunities many times to go to Japan. When was the first time that happened for you? Was it around the time that these gentlemen introduced you?
Yeah.
And how has that been impactful for you to do that?
Japan has changed my life. Like the United States has changed my life. The second country in the world that's changed my life is Japan. It's just incredible. Very important to note, though, that a lot of the things that are happening in Japan that are so powerful, the Japanese learned from America. They learned from Ford. They learned from Demi. That's not to say all, but the Japanese culture is amazing. I first went in 2000 to answer your question. It transformed my life when I walked into the Lexus factory and I saw what they were doing compared to what I was doing. And I was the guy who had the perfectly organized shop. Everything was painted for it. Looked like an airplane, like an Air Force airplane hangar. My place was perfect. And I walked in and saw what Lexus was doing. I go, I got a problem. There's Houston, we got a problem. I had no idea what they were, 100 years ahead of me. And that transformed my life. And now I'm a high level student of Japanese thinking. Let's just put it that way. I've been there so many times, probably 40, 50, I don't know how many times. I mean, I've traversed the entire country. I've been from one tip to the other tip, from Okinawa to Hokkaido. I've just been everywhere. Traveled with motorcycles. I know that country backwards and forwards. I know the people. I've been inside factories, businesses, restaurants. I speak a little bit of the language, not a lot, but enough. So it's crazy. It's the craziest place on earth. It's the most polite country in the world, the most gracious people, the cleanest place you've ever been in your life. As one comedian says, you go into a Japanese toilet and you come out cleaner than you go in. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, and I know one of the things you like to do when you're there, when you were talking about volunteering at the school where you are now, is that you have the opportunity to go to some of the elementary schools there in Japan. And it's like, hey, look, if you really want to get to the root of continuous improvement and lean, go no further than the elementary schools. You'll see children happy, working together, cleaning together, not wasting a single grain of rice. And when you were sharing that experience, I just thought, wow, that.
The contrast between what we do, and I don't ever to say be critical of the United States, but what we do in our schools in the United States is moronic. Is literally moronic at times a factor of 1,000 compared to Japan. Japan, they clean the entire school. They do the yards. They clean their classrooms. They clean the toilets. They take care of everything. They're masterful stewards of resources. They clean up after lunch for themselves. There's no mess anywhere. They eat all the food. No food is wasted. Zero. It's just like, it can't be. It can't be. It's impossible. Change your thinking. It can be.
I love that. Paul, as we round this out, I'd love to obviously give you the last word. What other pieces of either knowledge or advice or counsel have you got for anyone that might be listening today as it relates to life and it being short or lean or their businesses? What would you say to people listening?
Well, if you want to have a life filled, like bursting at the seams with joy and fulfillment and contentment, start giving. Stop thinking about what you're going to get out of every deal. Stop negotiating the advantage. Start giving. Start improving other people's lives. If you get that one concept, everything else will work itself out.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on today. Everyone that's patched in and will patch in, thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate you too. Tune in every week for more episodes. We'll drop them once weekly and we'll have more incredible guests just like Paul. Thanks again, Paul. Create a great day. Thanks, everybody.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.